Why does having a crush hurt? Love is like a fever that sweeps over you, unbidden, uncontrollable. That's how it was for me when I first met him. They say love at first sight is a myth, something only seen in movies or read in books. But in that moment, it felt like everything in my life shifted. Suddenly, the world made sense in the most irrational way possible, and yet, the pain that followed, oh, it was unbearable. I'd always prided myself on being a logical person. I believed in God's plan, that everything happens for a reason, and that with faith and wisdom you can navigate any storm. But none of that prepared me for what came next. The heart has its reasons which reason knows nothing of. My mind goes crazy when I find myself thinking about him, dreaming about him, building entire futures in my imagination based on fleeting moments. It's crazy. How could someone have such power over my thoughts without even knowing it? What is love? Songs, movies, even Bible verses speak of the beauty and joy of love. Yet, no one ever warns you about the agony of it, the nights spent praying for strength, asking God why he would let someone into your life only for it to hurt so much. Have enough courage to trust love one more time and always one more time. But how do you trust something that breaks you down so completely? This crush, it wasn't just about him, not really. It was about the image I had created, the perfect version of him I had sculpted in my mind. In some ways, I wasn't in love with him at all, but with the person I imagined him to be. And that's where the heartbreak comes in, because having a crush is painful. Reality never matches the dreams we conjure in our hearts, and that's where the hurt starts to creep in. Thank God, losing that love was like being released from a beautiful prison. It was painful, yes, but there was also relief in the release, like shedding a weight I didn't even realize I was carrying. It's funny how love can do that, break you down and build you up all at once. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about yourself, about faith, about the world. But in that questioning, maybe we find our truest selves. Number 1, comes from me, a fantasy. You know, it's strange how love sneaks up on you. One moment you're just living your life, coffee in hand, thoughts on work or school, and then suddenly it hits you like lightning. They say love at first sight is a myth, but I swear that in that single moment I felt everything. My heart sped up, my breath caught, and somehow in my soul I knew. I've been thinking a lot about how we humans tend to fantasize. It's something we've done since we were kids, creating stories, building imaginary worlds. And now, as I stand here, my mind is creating a world for him. We don't know each other well yet, but I find myself picturing every little detail of what we could be. They say faith is the evidence of things unseen, and I guess that's true for love too. I don't know him, but I believe in the version of him I've created. Maybe it's a kind of faith, the way I've started to idolize him, a process the French philosopher Stendhal called crystallization. It's when we take someone and start to build them up in our minds, turning them into something almost divine. The funny thing is, even though I don't know him well, I can't stop thinking about him, picturing all the qualities I imagine he must have. I've created this perfect version of him in my head, like he's some hero from a story. It reminds me of the way Desdemona fell in love with Othello. She didn't just love the man, she loved the stories he told, and in her mind, those stories made him larger than life. And maybe that's what's happening to me. Maybe I'm falling for the idea of him more than the actual person. But as C.S. Lewis said, we are what we believe we are, and right now, I believe he's everything I've been waiting for. I think a part of me is scared that I'm just making all this up, that he's not really the person I've imagined, but in the depths of my heart I find comfort in my faith. I grew up being told to trust God's plan, and part of me wants to believe that this moment, this feeling, was meant to happen. Jeremiah 29:11 echoes in my mind. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Maybe this is part of that future. Maybe I'm just at the beginning of something bigger. Crushes, they say, are just fantasies. We paint these beautiful pictures in our minds of what could be, and sometimes we forget to check if the reality matches up. But isn't that part of the magic? That little bit of mystery that makes every glance, every smile feel like it holds the weight of the world. It's like a puzzle, where each piece of him I don't know yet makes him even more intriguing. I know this might sound ridiculous, but there's a part of me that feels like if I pray hard enough, if I hold on to my faith, everything will fall into place. It's funny, really, how we lean on God in these moments, asking for clarity when love feels like chaos. But like Proverbs 3:5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. So maybe I don't need to understand it all right now. Maybe I just need to trust the process. People tell me that crushes are harmless, that they're just a phase, but it doesn't feel that way. Right now, everything reminds me of him. A song on the radio, a quote I read online, they all lead back to him. It's like my heart has latched onto this idea of what we could be and it won't let go. I wonder if he thinks of me the same way or if I'm just another passing thought in his day. But even in that uncertainty, I feel this pull, this need to know him more. I think of what Abraham Lincoln said, the best way to predict your future is to create it. And I can't help but wonder, am I creating this future in my mind? Or is it already written for me, waiting for me to step into it? But here's the thing, I'm not sure if this fantasy will ever become reality. Maybe it's all just wishful thinking. Maybe I'm setting myself up for disappointment. But right now, I'm willing to take the risk, to see where this leads, even if it ends in heartache. Because isn't that what faith is all about? Taking the leap, even when you don't know where you'll land? At the end of the day, I think I'm falling for more than just him. I'm falling for the idea of him, for the possibilities that lie in the spaces between what I know and what I don't. And isn't that what love is? Faith in the unseen? So here I am, standing on the edge, waiting to see if this fantasy becomes something more. And maybe, just maybe, God has a plan that's more beautiful than anything I could ever imagine. For love is not only something you feel, it is something you do, as David Wilkerson once said. And I guess I'm ready to take that step. Number 2, a journey beyond ego. It was one of those moments like a flash of lightning when everything you thought you knew about yourself vanished. It's strange how a single look can dismantle your sense of identity, making you question everything. I didn't expect it, but that's love for you. It sneaks in like a thief, changing your world forever in an instant. I grew up in a small town where everyone knew everyone's name. It gave me a sense of security, a sense of who I was. But standing there, locking eyes with him, it felt like all of that fell away. It wasn't just attraction. It was as if God himself whispered to me that my life had just pivoted on its axis. A verse from Jeremiah 29:11 came to mind. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Was this his plan all along? Was this moment destined to happen, crafted by divine hands? I've heard it said that vanity is my favorite sin. Though it's a line from a movie, it holds truth. We're all guilty of it, aren't we? Wanting to be seen, admired, loved, not just for who we are, but for the reflection we hope to cast. In that instant, staring into his eyes, I wondered if I was drawn to him because of who he was or because of what his affection would say about me. Would being loved by someone like him validate all the insecurities I've carried since childhood? Could his love transform me from an ordinary girl into someone extraordinary? C.S. Lewis once wrote, "To love at all is to be vulnerable." I get it now. Love exposes the parts of us we hide even from ourselves, like our ego, quietly lurking beneath every decision, every desire. I know I'm not supposed to need that kind of validation. I know I'm supposed to find my worth in God, in faith, in something greater than the fleeting gaze of another. But there's a part of me, the part that was once a gangly teenager staring into the mirror and wishing I was someone else, that desperately wants to believe his love could erase all the doubts I have about myself. It's funny how love works. We think we're searching for someone else, but maybe we're really searching for a version of ourselves that feels worthy of being loved. He's just the mirror, reflecting back the person I want to be. And maybe that's okay. Maybe God designed it that way. After all, didn't He create us to love one another, to build each other up, to see the best in each other, and through that, to see the best in ourselves? There's a part of me that's terrified, though. What if this is just my ego talking? What if I'm not actually in love with him, but with the idea of him, the fantasy I've built up in my head? It's like what John Keats said about how we turn our lover's hair comb into a tiara, seeing them not as they are, but as we want them to be. I wonder, am I seeing him clearly, or am I just projecting my own desires onto him? Still, something about this feels different. It feels real. I'm not trying to impress him. I'm not putting on a show. When I'm with him, I feel free. It's like I don't have to hide. And maybe that's the point. Maybe true love isn't about inflating our ego, but about letting go of it entirely. As I sit here, replaying that first moment in my mind, I realize I've never felt so vulnerable, so exposed, and yet so alive. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I do know that this moment, this feeling, has changed me. And maybe that's all love really is. A journey where we lose ourselves only to find something greater, something divine. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. 1 Corinthians 13:4 reminds me. So I'm going to trust that this is more than just vanity, more than ego. Maybe this is the beginning of something God has written into my story, something I was always meant to experience. In the end, all I can do is let go and trust in God's plan, trust in the love I feel, and trust that in this journey I'll find not just Him, but myself. Number 3, a heart's confession. It happened so fast, like lightning striking the earth. I didn't expect it, I wasn't ready for it, and yet the moment I saw him, my heart shattered and reformed in ways I didn't even know were possible. People always talk about love at first sight like it's magical, like it's some fairy tale moment, but they never tell you how painful it can be, how it feels like you've lost control of your own emotions, like you're spinning in a world where nothing makes sense except the sight of that person. I think about what my mom used to say, how God has a plan for everyone. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. She'd remind me from Proverbs. But how am I supposed to trust when my heart feels like it's being ripped in two? It's not the kind of love that's soft or tender. No, this love feels fierce, consuming, like it's testing my faith, my identity. It's the kind of love that makes you question everything, even who you are. I've always thought of myself as strong, confident, and independent. Vanity? Maybe a little. I knew who I was, where I was going. I had dreams, plans, but in a single moment, one glance from him, and suddenly everything shifted. The things I thought were important faded into the background. All that mattered was him. And yet, I don't even know if he feels the same. That's the part that hurts the most. The not knowing. I think of Eleanor Roosevelt's words. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. But what if your dreams involve someone who might never look your way? What if this love I'm feeling, this lightning bolt that struck me, is only ever meant to be one-sided? It's a painful thought, and yet I can't help but cling to it. like a prayer whispered into the night, hoping someone will hear me. Is this God's way of testing me, testing my patience, my faith, my ability to endure? There's a part of me that believes that everything happens for a reason, that this overwhelming love is meant to teach me something. But what? To be patient? To trust in His plan? Or maybe to let go of my own vanity, my own need for control, and just believe that whatever happens, happens for a purpose. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, Hebrews 11:1. I keep repeating that to myself, like a mantra, because right now, all I have is faith. Faith that if this love is meant to be, it will be. Faith that even if it isn't, I will still be okay. But it's hard. It's so hard when your heart is screaming at you to take action, to do something, to make Him see you, feel the way you feel. But that's not how love works, is it? Love isn't something you can force. It's either there or it isn't. I think of all the stories I've heard about love, the romantic comedies, the fairy tales, but no one ever talks about the pain that comes with it. The agony of wanting someone so badly and not knowing if they want you back. It feels like a test of endurance, a race where you don't even know if you're heading in the right direction. And yet, through all of this, I hold on to hope. Maybe it's foolish, maybe it's naive, but there's something inside of me that won't let go. I think of what Maya Angelou once said, "Love recognizes no barriers. It jumps hurdles, leaps fences, penetrates walls to arrive at its destination full of hope." Maybe that's what this is, hope. Hope that this love will somehow, some way find its way to Him. That even if it doesn't happen today or tomorrow, someday He'll see me the way I see Him. But until then, I pray. I pray for strength, for patience, for the ability to keep my heart open even when it feels like it's breaking. And I remind myself of what I've always known deep down, that love, true love, is worth waiting for, even if it hurts like hell in the process. Number 4, a heart's journey through love and faith. They say love strikes like lightning, and for me that couldn't be truer. I wasn't looking for it, wasn't prepared. It hit me all at once, right in the middle of my ordinary life. One glance, and suddenly my world shifted. How could something so powerful, so overwhelming even be real? Love at first sight, an idea I'd only ever read about or seen in movies, became my reality, and with it came a kind of ache I wasn't expecting. You grow up hearing about love, the fairy tales, the happily ever afters, but nobody tells you about the storm that comes with it. Nobody warns you that love, the kind that hits you like a flash of lightning, comes with thunder too, this rumbling deep inside, shaking you to your core, leaving you breathless. It's intoxicating but terrifying all at once, and here I am, caught in that storm. I remember the moment I saw him. It wasn't just attraction. It was like my soul recognized something in him. He was the person I had never known I needed, and suddenly, nothing else mattered. But then, as quickly as that feeling of recognition came, so did the fear. What if this isn't real? What if he doesn't feel the same? What if I'm left standing here with my heart wide open only to be crushed? Oprah Winfrey said, "The biggest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams." But dreams, they're fragile things. We believe in them with all our hearts, but what happens when reality doesn't match? I guess that's where faith comes in. Faith in something greater than ourselves. Faith in God's plan. My faith has always been my anchor. It's what gets me through when the storms of life hit, but love challenges even that. In church, they always taught us that love is patient and kind, that it's not supposed to hurt. Yet here I am, in love, and it's the most beautiful agony I've ever known. I think about Matthew 5:44, where Jesus says, "Love your enemies, and pray for those who persecute you. And while he's talking about a different kind of love, maybe it still applies. Love doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it's a battle, sometimes it's painful, but we're called to love anyway. But then again, isn't that what makes it so worth it? Isn't the pain what makes the joy all the sweeter? Helen Keller once said, "The best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart." And maybe that's the point. Maybe love isn't supposed to be easy. Maybe it's supposed to break us open, expose us, and leave us raw. Because it's in that vulnerability, in that rawness, that we find something real. This love, it's not just some fleeting crush. I feel it in every part of me. It's in the way my heart races when I think about him, in the way I catch my breath when he looks my way, in the way I can't seem to focus on anything else. And yes, it hurts. God, it hurts. But I wouldn't trade this feeling for anything. It's like that quote from Rumi, "You have to keep breaking your heart until it opens." Maybe that's what this is. My heart breaking open so that I can feel everything more deeply, more fully. People say that love is a leap of faith, and I get that now. You throw yourself into it, knowing full well that you might fall, that you might get hurt. But you leap anyway, because the possibility of what might be is worth the risk. And isn't that what faith is too? Believing in something you can't see, trusting that there's a greater purpose even when you don't understand. I think about him all the time. I think about what it would be like to be close to him, to know him in a way that nobody else does. And then I think about the fear, the doubt. What if he doesn't feel the same? What if this love is one-sided? I guess that's the part that scares me the most. The not knowing, the uncertainty. But as Helen Keller said, life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. And this love, it's the greatest adventure I've ever known. The truth is, I've always been afraid of love. Afraid of opening myself up, of being vulnerable, of giving someone else the power to hurt me. But now, in this moment, I realize that love isn't about playing it safe. It's about being brave enough to take the risk, even if it means getting hurt. And maybe that's what God wants for me. Maybe he's using this love to teach me something about trust, about faith, about letting go. I've always believed that God has a plan for my life, that he knows what's best for me, even when I don't. So maybe this is part of that plan. Maybe this love, this ache, this longing is all part of his greater purpose for me. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if he feels the same way or if this love will ever be returned. But I do know that I'm grateful for it. Because even though it hurts, even though it scares me, it's also the most alive I've ever felt. And isn't that what love is supposed to do? It wakes you up, shakes you out of your comfort zone, and makes you feel things you never thought possible. So here I am, standing in the middle of this storm, heart wide open, waiting to see where it takes me. And no matter what happens, no matter how this story ends, I know one thing for sure. I will never regret loving him. Because love, even when it's painful, even when it's uncertain, is always worth it. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Love is the only force capable of transforming an enemy into a friend." And that's what I have. Hope. Hope that this love, this lightning strike kind of love, will lead me to something beautiful, something real, something lasting. Even if it's scary, even if it hurts, I choose to believe in love. And that, more than anything, gives me the strength to keep going, to keep hoping, to keep loving. Because in the end, love is not about winning or losing. It's about the journey, about the person it shapes you into, about the faith it strengthens within you. And for that, I will always be grateful. Number 5, the strength in unspoken love. Falling in love is supposed to be beautiful, isn't it? At least that's what I've always heard. But no one really warns you about the heartache that can come with it, especially when that love is unspoken, one-sided. They tell you to be brave, to follow your heart. But they don't tell you what to do when your heart is breaking piece by piece. Every time you see the person you love and know deep down that they don't feel the same. I've always believed in love. I was raised with the idea that love is a gift, a blessing from God. I'd carry those words with me, believing that love was something pure, something that would heal and never harm. But what happens when love becomes a burden? What happens when it's not reciprocated and you're left with nothing but your own broken heart? That's where I found myself, not long ago. I met him in the most unexpected way, like fate had brought us together. At first, I didn't even realize what was happening. It wasn't an immediate head-over-heels type of thing. It was gradual, like the way the sun slowly rises, bringing warmth and light. Little by little, I fell for him until one day I realized he was all I could think about. There's a quote by J.R.R. Tolkien that says, "I wish it need not have happened in my time." And I found myself thinking that exact thing, but about my feelings. Why did I have to fall for someone who didn't feel the same? Why couldn't my heart have chosen someone who would love me back? But that's the thing about love. It doesn't always play by the rules. It doesn't follow a script or a plan. It just happens, sometimes in the worst possible way. I tried to be strong. I tried to tell myself that I could keep this love inside, that I didn't need to say anything. Maybe in time my feelings would fade, or maybe he would magically feel the same. But with every passing day, my hope began to turn into pain. I couldn't deny it anymore. I was in love with him, and the weight of that unspoken love was slowly crushing me. In American culture, we're often told to go for it, to be bold and take risks, especially when it comes to love. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? That quote from Wayne Gretzky haunted me. I knew I had to tell him how I felt, but the fear of rejection was paralyzing. What if he didn't feel the same? What if my confession ruined everything? The thought of losing him, even as a friend, was unbearable. But then I remembered something my mother used to say, "God never gives you more than you can handle." I tried to hold on to that, believing that maybe this was part of a bigger plan, that there was a lesson in this pain. I prayed for strength, for guidance, for the courage to do what I knew I needed to do. I couldn't carry this love in silence any longer. It was tearing me apart. So I finally told him. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. But I did it. I laid it all out there. Told him everything I had been holding inside for so long. And then I waited. For a moment I thought maybe, just maybe, he would say the words I had been longing to hear, but he didn't. He was kind, gentle even, but his answer was clear. He didn't feel the same way. I remember that moment vividly. It felt like my whole world came crashing down. All the hope I had been clinging to was gone in an instant, and all I was left with was this unbearable pain in my chest. But how could something so painful be kind? How could this love I felt, which had been so beautiful to me, cause me so much anguish? I cried. A lot. I didn't know what else to do. I had given everything, my heart, my soul, and it still wasn't enough. But slowly, through the tears and the heartbreak, I began to realize something. Yes, love is painful, especially when it's unrequited. But that doesn't mean it's not valuable. I had loved deeply, and even though it didn't turn out the way I had hoped, that love had shown me something important. It had shown me my strength. Brené Brown said, "Vulnerability is not winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's our greatest measure of courage." That quote kept replaying in my mind as I tried to pick up the pieces of my broken heart. I had been vulnerable. I had loved fully, even though it meant risking everything. And even though it hurt, I wouldn't take it back. I believe that God has a plan for me even if I don't always understand it. Maybe this heartbreak was meant to teach me something, to prepare me for something greater. I still have faith that love will find me again, and this time, it will be the kind of love that is returned. But for now, I'm learning to love myself. I'm learning that I don't need someone else to complete me, that I am whole on my own. I won't lie and say that it doesn't still hurt. There are days when I see him and the ache in my heart returns, reminding me of what could have been. But I've come to accept that not every love story has a happy ending, and that's okay. I've learned that my worth isn't tied to whether or not someone loves me back. I am enough just as I am. As I move forward, I carry with me the lessons this love has taught me. I am stronger now, more resilient. My heart, though broken, is still beating, and with time, it will heal. I trust that God has something better in store for me, even if I can't see it right now. And when love strikes again, I'll be ready, because this time, I'll know that I have the strength to handle it, whatever comes my way. So, to anyone reading this, if you're in love, speak up. Don't make the same mistake I did by holding it all inside. Love, even when it's painful, is worth expressing. Don't let fear keep you from taking that leap, because even if it doesn't turn out the way you hope, you'll come out of it stronger. As Elizabeth Gilbert once said, "To be fully seen by somebody then, and be loved anyhow, this is a human offering that can border on miraculous." One day I believe that kind of love will find me. But until then, I'll keep building my heart of steel, knowing that I can survive anything, even the pain of unrequited love. In conclusion, exploring why does having a crush hurt reveals deep insights into the nature of our emotions and connections. Having a crush is painful because it exposes our vulnerabilities and desires, making us susceptible to heartache and uncertainty. It's a natural part of human experience to feel this way, and understanding it can help us navigate our emotions more effectively. If you found this information enlightening, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to The Stoic Goddess for more insightful content. Share your thoughts in the comments and hit the notification bell to catch our upcoming videos. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.